I've got on the next slide, I've got a link to, in Australia, it's IP Australia. In the US, it's uspto.gov. And the active registered trademark for your brand must appear on your product, or either on the product or on the packaging. And there's ways around that, like, like really cleverly done stickers on boxes, so long as it looks like it's not just tacked on. Tags like, embroidered tags that you could get made up and get them stitched on. This is obviously if you're, the long-term goal is you should really be branding your products anyway with private label products. But if your first run, they said you have to order 3,000 to put branding on it, then this is where you can, there's workarounds. So trademark registration number, which is the number you get from lodging your trademark. We used to have to wait for the trademarks to be approved, which was 9 to 12 months in Australia. But now we can just use the registration number, which is very, very exciting. And you also need to have an idea of product categories. And Kate's going to talk about this in more detail of what you want to file, what classes you want to file your products under for your trademark. So there's the two sites I mentioned. And Kate, if you just want to go through what services you offer and timeframes and
basically, if we go through the various jurisdictions, Australia, if you do the Head Start route, which is the expedited route, it's sort of split into two. You pay slightly more. If you go down the standard route, it's $250 per class, whereas the Head Start's $330. But what it is it's split in two. You pay $200 for your filing fee, and then within about 3 to 5 days max, you'll get an examination report. Whereas if you go the standard route, it's about 5 to 6 months currently, the lag. And if all is going well, you pay the additional $130 filing, the Part 2 fee, and you proceed to formal filing, assuming that you've got a clear report. And clear, I mean, there's no objections raised. If there are objections raised, you can address them during that period. But once you've proceeded to Part 2, you usually do that only if you've got a clear report or you have a strategy as to how to address the report. So you proceed to Part 2, and then within about, the quickest I've had it is about 10 days. But yeah, it's about 10 days to 2 weeks from that date, you will get an early acceptance notice. Now, that is what you can now use in Australia to apply for brand registry in Australia. So it's super duper quick compared to in Australia, you used to have to wait until it was actually registered, which, as Pippa said, the minimum time frame in Australia is 7.5 months that you can get something registered. But now it's, super quick. From start to finish, it's sort of within about 20 days, you can get brand registry in Australia. In the US, basically, once you file your application in the US, you'll get a serial number. Within a couple of days of receiving the serial number, the USPTO updates its register. And once that update has occurred, Amazon would be able to find your application and you can get brand registry, which is, super duper quick in that sense. Yeah. I believe that the absolute quickest in terms of to registration is in Europe, but it's also one of the most expensive. So just in terms of costs, so my services, if you need assistance in Australia, I currently have an AOE special, which is $450 for the Head Start. So that's 1 mark in 1 class of goods, and I do everything for you. For the USA, you can no longer file in the USA yourself as a foreigner. They changed the rules in January last year, and you have to use a US attorney now. It was basically because they were getting flooded by Chinese applicants that were, using the Amazon and wanting a trademark, etc. And so by going this sort of route, it slowed some of them down. To file in the US, it's $720 US, and that is for one mark in one class, inclusive of all official and agents fees. If you want to file in the UK, since Brexit, UK and Europe have split. So, of course, the UK filing itself is £550. Europe, which covers 27 countries, is £1,200. But if you do both together, my UK attorney will do it for £1,575. So they're pretty reasonable, packages. You could find cheaper out there, but I always worry about the cheaper you go. Some people they'll just do as they're told, sort of thing. They don't really give you any other assistance. I try and help you guys, coming from Amazon seller myself. As Pippa said, you have to select a class of goods or services. There are 45 classes to choose from. There are, basically 34 classes of goods, and then you've got the remainder of services. It is always preferable to choose a product class. So they're not like Amazon where there's categories. You can't go, I just want to select homewares. Homewares actually is covered in a couple of different classes. So you have to go by whatever your product is. So that's, I don't need to know the intricacies of your product, but I need to know high level. And of course, I'm bound by attorney-client privilege. I'm a registered patent and trademark attorney in Australia and New Zealand. So, I'm bound by confidentiality. But I need to know what you're selling so that I can suggest the right classes of goods. Sometimes it's tempting to go into class 35, which is the online retail class. And yes, it can be good if you have no idea whatsoever what you're going to sell, but you want to get brand registry quickly. And it's not going to be your brand strategy going forward. You just want to get brand registry and that's it, because it is actually a service class. It's not a product class. So it covers you if you are, if you have a standalone website and you're selling multiple different types of products. But it actually, if you ended up in litigation around someone copying your mark on the exact same goods, you'd have a bit of a challenge because you don't have the product class covered. The other thing that you need to know about brand registry is, yes, you can get brand registry in, say, the US off an Australian trademark and vice versa. However, you will get A+ content and you'll get access to that. But if you have a copycat who is selling the exact same product, or they've just suddenly started to use your brand, you will not be able to remove them unless you have a trademark in that country, because trademarks are jurisdiction or country based. So you only get protection in the country in which you have a trademark, either pending or registered. So it's just something to keep in mind. I got bitten by that, just add it to my many sagas of Amazon. And that was in the US, and I ended up having to challenge in the US around, I used the mark first, but they registered first, and then we had to go for a challenge because in the US it's a first to use rather than a first to file country. So it was a bit painful, but eventually, as soon as it was registered, that was it. I took them on, and all their listings got removed. But trademarks are a tricky thing. A lot of people, do try and save that $120 in Australia and do it themselves rather than get professional assistance. Sometimes it can pay off and it'll be all fine. A lot of times, though, I've had clients come to me and go, I tried to file this myself and I actually filed it in the wrong class. Can you help me now? So, you know, that's trademarks in a nutshell, I guess.
Thank you, Kate. I know you mentioned objections to getting them approved. And I know a few of my clients have had objections. Can you just go like just the common things that I know it's general terms? Is there a common?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. So a lot of the most common is people choosing some sort of descriptive name. You know, outdoor camping goods for camping goods. You're not going to get something that is descriptive. The ultimate perfect trademark is something that is made up, completely unique, and something that doesn't actually logically go with the goods, like Apple for computers. You know, you'd never get Apple for apples. It has to be something that the objection is that other traders in their general course of commerce need to use those words for, you know, trade. So you can't have a monopoly over those because they are descriptive terms. So if you use those descriptive terms for a completely unrelated good, then sure, that would be fine because the two don't go together. So just try and think of something that is, you know, quite unique. Sometimes you can, if you've got the word and it's a bit, it's too close to being descriptive, you can sometimes address the objection by using quite a unique and fanciful logo, as long as those words are not the focal point. If all it is a fancy font, you're not going to be able to overcome that at all. It has to be, you know, you can potentially use the you know, an abbreviation of the word or something, or have the word in really small letters, and then the rest of the logo is quite fancy. But it has to be something unique and that other traders are not going to need to use, because the purpose of a trademark, it's a badge of origin. It's meant to really represent your brand, your company, and, you know, people look at it and identify with your brand. And it comes with a whole bunch of, you know, different characteristics in terms of, you know, the marketing side of things. When people see that brand, what do they think? What do they feel about your goods? Is it something that's high quality? Is it, you know, something that makes them feel content? That sort of thing. So, you know, you should really think about what goes into your brand name, really. And the other one is phonetics. So don't think that if you just change one letter of a word that makes it different to a mark that's already on the register in the same class of goods, that it's going to be considered different. When the examiners are looking at trademarks, they look at, they do like wildcard searches and swap out some of the letters and things like that. And if they are what's called, what is it? Deceptively similar, or they are phonetically similar, then they won't get through. So they would get through if they were in a totally different class, but if they're in the same class of goods as someone that already has it on the register, no, you won't get through.
An example of that is one of my clients, I won't name the full brand name, but using the word for versus the number 4.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess.
That's exactly right. Because, you know, when you say it, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate.
No worries.
All right, moving on. That's trademarks out the way. So I guess if you haven't yet finalized your brand name and you think, you know, just keep that in mind. And if you have finalized your brand name, work out whether or not if it's too vague, whether or not you can change it at this point. And a brand name is, you know, it's really nothing until you do something with it, like trademark it, put it all over stuff. So yeah, if, you know, that, and if it's registered with ASIC, it's easy to register another name. So, all right, so A+ content. So once we've got our trademark, and we do brand registry, which is quite straightforward. It's actually, you're going to Seller Central And probably the easiest, I've got a link further down on one of these pages. I don't think it's on this. I'm just going to move this out the way. No, it's on one of the further pages. So it's just brandregistry.amazon.com, I believe. It's coming up. And the process of getting brand registry is pretty straightforward. They just want to know your brand name. You have to spell it exactly the same in their brand registry process as is written on your listing, if you've already got your listing up, and also as it's written on the trademark, and that includes spaces and capitals and all the rest. So you can get rejected from brand registry application through the application process if it's not identical